Tap down from Rugby. The tap tackle, not held, finishes it. It's a peroxide peach.
Hello and welcome to Jackals and Tackles, a new rugby podcast. On this maiden episode, we will discuss an England side that appear to be building perfectly to the next World Cup as they dismantle the spirited Australia. We'll dissect the Chicago rematch between New Zealand and Ireland, in which the All Blacks demonstrated the danger they still possess, despite there being questions around their side following the record defeat to the Springboks during the Rugby Championship. And then we'll spend some time on Scotland's victory over the USA. I'll be your host, Brendan McGilligan, and I'm joined by two guests who will no doubt have plenty to say about this weekend of autumn internationals. First is Henry Osborne. Nice to see you again, Henry. How's everything?
And you? Yeah, all good, all good.
Great to hear. And the other guest is Ricky Westerby. Ricky, how are things going on your end?
Not too bad. Thank you. It was a good day out at Twickenham on, Saturday afternoon. Henry, you were there as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I definitely was. Absolutely hanging.
Well, that's great to hear that. So look, I'll start off and kick off with Henry. So starting off with England, just give us a brief overview of what you think of their performance and what you kind of expect moving on from here.
It was a bit of a weird one because, England won quite convincingly, but the performance wasn't convincing. I've seen quite a few people saying that's actually a good sign of it being actually a strong team that's being built. And it's sort of gone under the radar, but England are now 8 wins in a row, going back to the Six Nations. Their last loss was Ireland. They've had 4 wins in a row in the Six Nations, 2 against Argentina, beating the USA, even if that's not too much of an achievement, as we'll come on to. And, now it's Australia, an Australia team that, although don't have all their players, did beat the Lions over the summer. So, it's building quite nicely.
And Ricky, what do you think? As you again were there and in the stadium, what was the kind of feeling of the crowd towards a performance where, as Henry pointed out, they're missing Skelton and other stars? Like, what are your thoughts?
To be fair, on a slight technicality, I was in the production van behind Twickenham, but I had a general feel for the game, and it was clear it was the first of the Autumn Nations series, but backing off of a pretty decent summer, I think there's good reason to be optimistic, and England fans can see it, despite being a bit pessimistic online, as we've seen.
Yeah, but it's never like an England fan to be pessimistic, is it? Do you know what I mean? But look, for me, I don't know where you want to talk about in terms of the strengths. Rugby's changed in the last year or so. They went away from, we'll come on to it, Ireland's strengths of going through phases to now maybe a quick game with kicking. Do you think England's adapted to that game a lot quicker than other home nations? And do you think that maybe is a benefit to them in terms of their style and the tactics and the players that they have? Ricky, I'll start with you.
I think on Saturday the conditions played perfectly into their favour. A lot of box kicking, a lot of testing the ball up high, and it worked well. I mean, if we look at the red zone efficiency, it was actually horrendously low until Henry Pollock scored his try. But I'd say it's just opening game struggles, let's just say.
Okay. Well, Henry, do you have anything to add on that, or?
I suppose one thing that I saw from where I was in the stands that I guess you can quite easily overlook, but actually there's individual skills it's quite clear England have been working on. So even the tap backs, every single tap back, go for a high ball. It wasn't necessarily Freddie Stewart trying to catch up high. It was actually just get your hand to it, get it away from the Australia player and get it back straight into the hands of one of your own teammates so that they could boot it away without quite as much pressure. So it's quite interesting how those sort of almost micro skills are really coming along. And then, as Ricky just mentioned with Henry Pollock, it's really promising seeing how those young players are coming through, and even in the back row with Guy Pepper sort of becoming a real line-out option. He's sort of not really a natural six, but he's really cemented himself there with that performance.
Yeah, do either of you think that, I was listening to someone talking recently, that rugby has now become again a sport of moments where you're kind of looking to break up the play, as you say, with that kick, that box kick, and either Stewart or Roebuck knocking it backwards and hoping, like, the Henry Pollock try, it kind of came out of nowhere in terms of he got a ball, he ran through, and Australia were kind of dismantled defensively because they couldn't get in shape. Do you think that's the way the sport's going, or do you think basically before the World Cup we've got now 2 years? Do you think someone will mastermind a way to stop that?
I suppose it's sort of, I don't know whether it's a worldwide trend, but I think there's definitely teams that is definitely the case with. Maybe it's sort of seeming more like a trend with the Lions, because I think that's definitely the case with Australia. They're very much a team that sort of, it will either be they're completely under pressure or they're completely on top. When Harry Potter got his run down the wings or intercepted the try to score, for a second I was going, oh my God, like I am worried that this is going to completely turn. It's going to be the same as last year. But I think that's more of a Australia thing. Whereas you look at a team like New Zealand, I don't know whether that would be the same argument.
Well, I don't know. Well, as I say, we'll talk about New Zealand later, but I flicked it on, and basically their first three tries came from the first three times they entered the 22. Like, it kind of shows their ability just to kind of score off nothing. And I feel that's where kind of my question came from, was obviously England's ability to kind of score from nothing, their ability to score from nothing. I would argue Scotland's ability to score from nothing, but it's not hard who they were playing against. Um, but
Yeah.
Ricky, but Ricky, the question of England always comes back to the number 10. Do you think George Ford put down a good enough marker, or do you think there might be someone else coming in?
See, I love George Ford, and I know you do too. You're a big fan.
Yeah.
I think Saturday wasn't his day, but I think overall he is also the best man for number 10. I know Henry will disagree with that because he's a big Mark Smith fan there, but in the Prem at the moment, there's no better 10, in my opinion.
Well, regarding that, do you think Owen Farrell might be called back the same way as Dad called him back for the Lions?
What, nepotism?
Yeah. Sure. Andy and Steve are probably good mates. Let's be honest.
Not sure if the centre partnership worked too well this week. I don't know what you boys thought.
Henry, do you want to take it?
I don't know. I see it definitely as an experiment having Tommy Freeman there, and I think there's probably no one better for him to partner than with Fraser Dingwall, given their just relationship with Northampton Saints. I don't think Tommy Freeman will lose that position against Fiji, but I think it's definitely an experiment worth having, because if you don't try it now, when will you try it?
Well, that's the question kind of coming into Fiji. Do you continue this team because you got New Zealand after them? Do you continue because you've talked about there was a rustiness that they need to kind of get over? Do you continue the same team, or do you bring in a few changes, or do you make wholesale changes? Now, you aren't that great against Fiji. You've lost not too long ago. They have the ability to beat you. They have the players to beat you. So what do you do?
Yes, I think you probably do stick largely to it. Obviously, England experimented a bit with sort of having the sort of second choice front row, and again, sort of a bit of a younger back row. I think they'll probably stick with that, and then maybe sort of shift up the bench. Maybe put Marcus Smith in, give him a shot. Maybe even stick him at 15, because there's rumours that Freddie Stewart might not be available with his hand injury, and that opens a whole question of do you have him, Henry Arundel? What's your choice there? But I think it's probably going to largely be stay as it is.
And Ricky, what are you going to say?
I'd agree with that consistency going in. I mean, Fiji, and then you got the All Blacks afterwards. That is massive. You need some momentum to continue it through, and I think Borthwick will do exactly that, to be honest.
Well, Ricky, obviously, as I say, you were in the van watching it from behind the stadium. What did you make of Australia? Like, obviously, 18 months ago, they were, I don't want to sound kind of over the top, but they were a laughing stock of tier one, bar Wales. So what do you make of them in terms of Joe Schmidt and kind of his impact?
Personally, because I was logging the data for the game, and you can see the penalty count. It opened as 6-1 Australia.
Yeah.
And that's just not good enough, is it? Like, you're never going to win a game if you're conceding. It was 5 to open the game. Funnily enough, it ended up as 13-all. I don't know how that happened, but I think they've come on leaps and bounds. Yes, they had a few players out as well because they weren't released. And And then you've got the Lions tour over the summer, so it's quite hard to gauge where they are as a team.
Mm-hmm. But do you think, having seen the Open Championship as well, they beat both Argentina and South Africa? Do you think that they've managed to kind of turn a corner when they've got their whole squad there in terms of, look, when it comes to the World Cup, which is clearly what everyone cares about, let's be honest, and that's their home World Cup, do you think, obviously they got eliminated last time in the group, in the pool stage, can you see them getting to the knockouts and maybe potentially being a banana skin for someone?
I think it all hinges on who's at fly half, to be honest. I thought
Okay.
Edmund had a pretty good game on Saturday, but obviously they were out Leisure, aren't they? We don't know this side. I feel they could be a very, very good team at the World Cup.
And Henry, what do you think?
I think they're at the moment very much, as I sort of touched on earlier, very much a momentum team. And sort of when they get a bit of wind in their sails, they could beat anyone in the world. But I also think, they need that confidence, and maybe 2 years' time they could really be that team. I don't think they are yet. I think it was sort of build up for the Lions tour, and then actually go, right, now we're going to sort of build the foundations a bit more properly. But I think they could do it. I don't think they are sort of even top 5 teams in the world right now. But if they play their cards right, they could be up there.
And just a final one from both of you is on England in terms of this Autumn Nation series. What success to use for the Autumn Nation series? Is it 4 wins or 3 wins, or is it showing performances that you are building towards something, potentially the Six Nations? Ricky, what do you think first?
Um, as a kid, obviously growing up, I always wanted to see us beat the best, and that's not changed for me at all.
Okay.
I think it obviously all hinges on whether we beat the All Blacks or not. That is a massive test, and considering Ireland just lost as well, albeit in some questionable circumstances, but
We'll discuss that soon. Don't you worry.
Yeah, obviously, I think 4-0.
Okay.
But a good performance against the All Blacks is what we really need, isn't it?
And Henry?
I guess 3 wins will beat, obviously already beaten Australia, beat Fiji, beat Argentina. That's a good series. If you lose to New Zealand, if that happens, sort of can move on, still building towards the World Cup, then sort of still be the narrative. But then I guess, beat New Zealand, lose to Argentina, maybe that's then, still a good series. Obviously, 4-0, as Ricky said, is the goal. But I think sort of being able to see the progress and sort of almost understand the identity of what the team is right now is kind of the real important thing.
England fans are hard to please. 4-0 or nothing. As an Ireland fan, I know we're being branded as arrogant, but I'll just take 1 win every so often. Anyway, let's move on to New Zealand and Ireland. First off, I don't want to touch on the game in terms of the actual game itself. I want to touch on some of the complaints coming out about the fixture as a whole. There was a lot of discussion about how it was an absolute mess regarding TMOs, regarding the pitch, regarding basically the kind of spectacle as a whole, the kind of slow play by the ref in the first half. It was 52 minutes in the first half, when obviously it's only supposed to be 40. Do you think, and I saw obviously Dan Cole and his little rugby partner talking about it, of did it live up to the hype? For me, obviously it was potentially overhyped because of what happened the last time in terms of Ireland winning their first match in 100 years ever against New Zealand. Do you think there was too much pressure to begin with put on the match? Henry, what do you think?
I think it's quite an interesting one. I've been sort of for a long time quite a bit of an apologist for American rugby, and sort of becoming a bit harder and harder to kind of back them up and say actually they will do something at some point. But I think it was quite interesting. I saw sort of just watching it sort of on the screen, the pitch looked so small, and you sort of start to think, come the World Cup, when it is in the USA, is that going to be the standard? Is that going to be what we're going to see every single game during that World Cup? And sort of then becomes a bit worrying of, is taking matches overseas. Obviously, there's been talk about maybe even Six Nations matches in the US. Is that just sort of a distraction? Is that really kind of a last-ditch effort? We've had Premiership games over there. What was it? Saracens played Newcastle, I think it was, in New Jersey, and that was sort of a complete damp squib, like 2,000 people there. I think, maybe it is sort of becoming a bit too much of a distraction, and maybe if that game was at the Aviva, would that have been a different result?
And Ricky, what do you think?
Well, it's quite clear that they're trying to mirror the NFL in terms of how they push out their international games. And to be fair, they did sell out Soldier Field, which is a fair gig to them. That's what, 64,800? I can't remember.
It was 60,000.
60,000, yeah.
Mm.
That's pretty impressive. The game itself, definitely overhyped.
Mm-hmm.
We're obviously trying to sell to a new audience. There's the perceivable threat of rugby league moving into the US as well. So maybe that was like a bit of a panic button move. I don't know. I'm more of a traditionalist, but keep it where the game needs to be. But yeah.
Oh, look, I would agree with you. I'm a traditionalist. I do think it's easy to sell out Soldier Field in Chicago when you got Ireland there because of the strong Irish ties with family and all that. They sold it out last time as well. People seem to forget that, and New Zealand seem to have forgot that to an extent, saying they did their part this time, which is a wee bit laughable because I think they had to sell out a fifth of the stadium, whereas Ireland sold out the rest. Also, it was announced on the morning of that Ireland will play a fixture there every year for the next 5 years, which they're trying to. World Rugby announced that, yeah, they're trying to bring the game over there, which to me seems strange that only Ireland are doing that. So Ireland will play a different country each time, which it won't be New Zealand every time, I believe, but they'll have South Africa, Australia, probably something like that. Do you think that's a good thing for America? Because obviously you mentioned the World Cup coming there. Do you think that actually helps American rugby as a whole? Because look, we're going to talk about it. 85-0 is quite shambolic when it comes to performance against a tier one nation. Do you think that's good? This agreement with Ireland, Ricky?
I think you have to look at the MLR to see where the state of American rugby is, and it's not great, is it? I think 2 more teams folded in the last year.
I mean, when it's down to teams having to announce that they're going to be playing in the league next year, so alarm bells are definitely ringing.
I mean, they're pushing the international game there. Whether that helps growth at grassroots, I'm not sure. Good for Ireland. I don't know. It's tough to gauge this international pushing abroad because if you look at what Wembley was, the Springboks against Japan, and it had 2 rings were empty. Looked terrible. I know it was on the same day as 2 other games in London.
Both in London.
Yeah, that was terrible planning, by the way, but it could be a good thing. I'm going to sit on the fence.
The question I'll ask, and maybe Henry can answer, is look, we keep talking about player welfare as well now these days of too many games and stuff like that. Like Ireland now, their whole squad have to travel back to Dublin to play Japan this weekend. Don't get me wrong, I think the team will probably be rotated. One to deal with the jet lag, and the other to deal with it's Japan. No offense to Japan, it's not as big as their next 2 games against South Africa and Australia. But do you think that might be an issue for Ireland moving forward in terms of maybe having to take care of players and them world rankings going down the world rankings because they're doing so much travel, so many games in such a condensed space of time?
I think sort of you could view it that way, but then I suppose probably the coaching staff within Ireland are probably going to just frame it to the squad and say, this is training, this is preparing for the World Cup. There's going to be travel across Australia. There's going to be sort of having to have those quick turnarounds and sort of be prepared for those unexpected journeys. So I think it's a weird one where, yeah, there is the argument of player welfare, but actually coaches could use it as a little tool to sort of make them a little bit better.
But Henry, I don't want to say it, but the Lions tour was Ireland's preparation for the World Cup.
Is that why you only?
But anyway, look, let's actually move on to the match. Let's move on to the match itself in terms of what were your thoughts in terms of the first decision, the first big decision, which is tag burn. Ricky, what do you think of the whole tag burn incident?
Well, Bernard Barrett came out and said himself that he's going to back him at whatever comes next at the sighting. So I think that really says it all. It just wasn't that bad. I mean, there's obviously, as we are talking about player welfare as well, you got to think about the lawsuits that are impending, that are coming. He did look dazed, but he didn't go off for a HIA. Personally, wasn't a red for me.
That's fair. Obviously, Henry, what are your thoughts? Do you think it ruined the spectacle to an extent?
I mean, I'm going to completely disagree with Ricky on this. I think that was a stonewall red card. And I know I've been on the record many times saying I completely hate 20-minute red cards. I think they are one of the worst things that sport's ever done. And sort of as soon as that red card came in, I was kind of rooting a little bit more for Ireland, sort of hoping that maybe New Zealand will kick up a stink, saying that 20-minute red cards sort of meant that they lost, and maybe there'll be a kick up and finally get rid of it. But no, I think it was. I mean, if you look at the framework on what referees and what the TMO has to go through, it was direct head contact. There was no attempt to wrap. There's not really any mitigation. I know sort of Dan Sheehan kept on saying it's a forward pass, but ultimately, if you're going to be in that position, you have to get lower. And he didn't. Tyburn was put himself at that risk and paid the consequence. Whether it was deliberate, yeah, Bowden Barrett can say accidental, and that will come down in his ban if there is a ban. But I think still on pitch, it's a red card.
Ricky, do you want to add anything or disagree?
I'm just looking at it. It's like it's a hospital ball, isn't it? It's not, and he's not got time to make any movement. Well, I just yeah, sorry, Henry, I disagree with you, but there we go.
Look, I won't weigh in because I'll be called biased in terms of any way I swing. Do you know what I mean? But look, we heard coming into the game all the excuses from Ireland before we even started of they're rusty. New Zealand are just after finishing their season. All the Leinster players are coming back from a Lions tour and haven't played. Do you think that was a telling factor? Or do you think, look, Ireland are just making excuses? They knew coming into the game New Zealand were better than them and it's an age in Ireland squad? Or do you think there was validity behind it? Ricky?
I honestly think that, well, the excuse is coming in early. That's the classic Irish thing, isn't it? But no, sorry. I think Ireland are realizing that their elite squad is finally getting over the hill, and that the All Blacks are a very good team. Like, that was on show, and we saw it. I mean, Ireland still looked fairly good with a player less, didn't they? So it wasn't. Oh, it's a tough one to weigh up. I think over the hill, and yeah, the All Blacks were good.
Fair enough. I felt personally, and Henry, you can disagree with me. I felt the bench had a massive impact for New Zealand. I felt the attack and the quality they were able to bring off compared to what Ireland could bring on. We brought on as Ricky kindly put, over the hill Bundy Aki probably, and Sam Prendergast who just looks out of his depth. It just doesn't look to be at that level. Then you brought on Ian Henderson, again, a man who is kind of nearing retirement. So what do you think yourself, Henry?
I think sort of there was so much effort was put into getting that team ready for 2023, and it nearly worked, but it just fell short at the quarterfinals. It always does. But I think there's not really been the best sort of player rotation, sort of getting players progressing through, getting ready for this upcoming World Cup, and maybe that will change over the next few years. But yeah, I do think sort of I worry for where Ireland could be in 2, 3, 4 years' time.
But do you think that maybe is now Andy Farrell's fault to an extent? Because after 2023, there was a lot of clamour in Ireland for them, right? Okay, we need to start bringing players through. And he decided not to do that for the next 2 Six Nations. Like, I know he wasn't there this year technically, but there was rumours that he was in the camp helping the training a lot. But yet they fail to bring through anyone young, maybe bar Ryan Baird and Sam Prendergast. Do you think it's on him where he's like 2027 is my last hit before he departs and he's just going off the tried and trusted team he has? Or what do you think? What do you think?
I think, that sort of a lot of blame can be put on Andy Farrell. I think he was very much in the mindset of, got to win 2023 and sort of put all his eggs into that one basket and didn't really care about the consequences. And then sort of thought, okay, if we can win the next Six Nations, maybe that's going to build some momentum. I think credit where it's due. Guys like Dan Sheehan have come through, still really young captaining against the All Blacks. That's an incredible achievement. Obviously, he went on to captain the Lions out in Australia as well for some of the matches. I think it's not that they're not bringing through players; it's just maybe not as much as it should be. But it's still got 2 years. There's still a lot of time to bring young players through and really blood them in and get them ready for the World Cup. So it's really just sort of a ticking time bomb, or they've got time to do it, but they've got to get on it now.
Oh, look, that's a very fair point, and I'll probably leave the discussion there. Like, we could talk about the game more, but we watched it ourselves, and look, as it was pointed out by you too, New Zealand were just a better team. They're just a better team. Shall we move on to the best team, which was the USA, showing us exactly how to play rugby incorrectly? So, Ricky, Scotland, world beaters, win next Six Nations, going to win the World Cup after that one.
I'd literally put money on them to win the World Cup after that game.
Fair enough.
Just a massive nothing game, wasn't it? It's not a bit of a shame for those who paid all that money to go and watch that. Even if you are a Scotland fan, you want to be playing better teams than that.
Do you think it's because Scotland did it during the summer tour as well, where they went to the Pacific Islands? Do you think Scotland isn't a draw because they aren't themselves a power? Like, they haven't won anything. They can't bring South Africa, New Zealand, and Australia to them, or Argentina for that. But maybe they should bring, I don't know, Fiji or something. But what do you think, Henry?
I suppose they're not. If you look at their fixtures, sort of this autumn, it's not playing against the not playing against the world beats. It's sort of they're not really pushing themselves in a lot of ways, and getting the wins is great, but then are they actually bringing that into the Six Nations? And it is not so sure. Like, they have fantastic players, but do they actually have the depth? Do they have the skill set to convert that? So we saw. So they looked fantastic, looked like a training ground one on Saturday. But it's all well and good doing that against people that are essentially just holding tackle bags, when you have to actually do it for real.
Sure, hang on. To be fair, they are playing. Well, they're playing an easier New Zealand this weekend because they have to fly all the way from America. It's not really like they've done it quite correctly. So they have. Look, do you think maybe because I saw a few comments on Twitter talking about how it was a B team for Scotland, but they had Darcy Graham playing, they had Duan van der Merwe, they had quite a few experienced players playing. Do you think, again, when you're talking about England, it was getting that rustiness off and prepare for the All Blacks game, Ricky?
Yes, in a way, but at the same time, no, because you don't want a training ground routine game to be your warm up to play the All Blacks, regardless of them coming back from Chicago. They needed a better team to play as a warm up. It's just like it won't impact them in the way that they wanted it to.
And Henry, just now, this will lead into my next question after this as well, which is, look, you said you're a USA defender, and in terms of this, you need to give teams like the USA time to develop and time to play against tier one nations to be able to do that. Do you think this gives an argument for more of those fixtures, or do you think it goes against it in terms of what's the point of doing this?
I suppose it's quite a weird one. We saw the USA against England actually really put up quite a bit of a fight, even if the scoreboard at the end didn't quite say that during the summer. So that was actually quite a bit of a contest, even though disrupted by the thunder and lightning as it was. But when it's a bit of a rout, you are sort of left wondering, is it worth it? But so we talked about it with Australia. Actually, this wasn't a full strength USA team either. This weekend fell outside of the official test window. They only had their MLR players. There's not as many players as I'd like to see in the Prem, but they didn't have AJ McGinty, for example, sort of their star boy. And I think if you can get those players in, could they sort of really build something? I don't think they'd be sort of anywhere near qualifying for the quarterfinals in the World Cup. But I think when the cards are in their favour, maybe they can sort of start to build a little bit of momentum.
So, Ricky, we've got probably for the home nations, we'll look at them first in terms of there's 4 fixtures. You've got Ireland, Japan, Scotland, New Zealand, England versus Fiji, and then on Sunday we've got Wales versus Argentina. Do any of those stick out to you? Is it particularly interesting, or they might have kind of significance regarding them moving forward?
Scotland, New Zealand, absolutely, and then Wales, Argentina as well. You want
Right?
to see?
Why the second one?
You want to see? I want to see where Wales are against a team like Argentina, who are consistently threatening to be in that top tier, and then
Yeah.
just evaluating where Wales are as a dismal, dismal rugby nation at the moment. I think that's quite interesting to me. And then definitely Scotland, New Zealand, because that just stands out like over the other four as a big game where Scotland can show what they're actually made of.
And Henry, obviously, I would agree with Ricky to an extent. I think the Wales Argentina ones is interesting in terms of they got a new manager, Steve Candy, first game as a Welsh head coach. What do you think? What do you think of the kind of England, Fiji, and maybe Ireland, Japan games?
Yeah, I think sort of the England Fiji one will be very interesting, sort of just to see how, as we sort of touched on earlier, sort of how that momentum can continue. Obviously, a win is expected, but we've seen a few years ago before the 2023 World Cup that, Twickenham fell silent and Fiji got the win, and they can be threatening. But obviously, the autumn internationals aren't always the kindest for Fiji. They don't always get their top 14 stars. So I think that could be either a sort of bit of a procession or it could be a really exciting game. And I think, yeah, Ireland, Japan, sort of Japan really struggled against South Africa by the looks of things. And sort of Ireland will really want to kind of make a statement, and maybe jet lag will play a role, but I think that would definitely be sort of a lot more of a one-sided game as well.
They're moving away from the home nations. We've still got obviously two other Six Nation sides playing, and I would argue two massive games. Italy are playing Australia, which looks to be quite a tasty encounter. Before that night, France play South Africa, which you might want to disagree with me, but I'd say those are the two best teams in the world at this minute in time. Ricky, what do you think?
Absolutely, that is the game that stands out the most, isn't it? You want to see they are 1 and 2 for me. You want to see the two go head to head. Should be an absolute cracker.
No interest in Italy, Argentina, or Italy,
Oh,
Australia.
sorry. Yeah. Italy, Australia. Another. Well, be interesting to see how the Wallabies bounce back from Saturday, because that was quite underwhelming, to be honest. We expected, even though they haven't had some of their players released, we expected a better Wallabies team to come out and play against England. And Italy is a very good test.
Hey, look, in my opinion, they're just playing their B team against Jews to prepare for the Italian game. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, it's a bigger test. But Henry, what do you think? Like, are you looking forward to seeing France? Like, I don't know, is this the time for France to basically? We saw during the summer when they sent their seaside down to New Zealand. Do you think this is the time where they go, look, we're serious, we can absolutely hammer you? Do you think this will be a statement performance from them?
I think definitely we saw it last year with the what was it France New Zealand game where it's sort of nighttime game in Paris or made that the real occasion. I think that could be it again. So under the floodlights, like where else would you want to be in the world?
I know watching Ireland, Japan, obviously. Um, but no, seriously, now moving on, like we've talked about the big nations. There's obviously a lot of wee nations playing as well, because the World Cup's coming up, so they all kind of need to start preparing. Like I've made a number of kind of notes on who's playing each other. You've got Georgia versus USA, you've got Portugal, Uruguay, Romania, Canada, and then Ireland A versus Spain. We talked earlier about USA kind of looking to build themselves up a kind of tier one nation in Scotland. Now, the other teams are all second tier, third tier rugby nations playing each other, whereas you got Spain testing themselves against probably the third team of Ireland. Do you think Spain testing Ireland A and testing kind of a higher caliber player against them? Do you think that'll be better in the long run for when the World Cup hits or not? Because Spain play England A next week as well.
I think you sort of need a bit of both, to be fair. I think sort of one game against sort of a England Day or an Ireland Day is sort of really needed. But then we saw it a few years ago with Portugal played against England Day, and admittedly it was a bit of a Portugal A team as well, but that ended up being something like 85-7 or something completely ridiculous. It was quite a bit of a blowout, and actually no one really gained anything from it. But I think sort of if you have the right level team, so it's not necessarily a second or third team, but actually it could be more of a development island team, sort of based on who they're playing against and sort of what to make it a bit more equitable. I think that can be a really valuable sort of training opportunity and sort of game opportunity, but it does risk being a blowout.
Well, I would argue that I think it might be the best thing for both sides. You've got players in that Ireland A team who are looking to probably usurp the current squad, so they need to impress. Then you got Spain who are like, well, we're playing against a team who are of decent quality. They're playing for the likes of Leinster, Munster, and Ulster. I think it could be a very entertaining tie and could be maybe better than the Ireland Japan game in all honesty. But I just want to kind of finish this kind of conversation that we've had on the final World Cup spot. So over the next 3 weeks, there's 4 teams going for the final spot. You've got 2 giants of the World Cup in Namibia and Samoa, both ending up in Dubai because Namibia, obviously, you could say were too confident going in against Zimbabwe, and Samoa somehow managed to finish bottom of the Pacific nations when they're a historic powerhouse. But you've also got Belgium and Brazil in there. Each team will play each other across 3 weeks, so it's like a table. So whoever finishes top. So I reckon it's fair instead of them playing each other and getting knocked out. How do you see that going? Do you think it's a good idea by rugby, the World Rugby, to bring this in, or what do you think? Henry, I'll start with you first.
We've had this sort of final repechage, sort of final tournament going for quite a few years, and I think it's definitely sort of Samoa's to lose. It seems quite obviously it's quite different this year with it being 24 teams instead of 20. So yeah, I think it does kind of create that sort of bit of extra excitement. Sort of there is so much on the line with it. It's not just the 8th best team in Europe. They can take the last place. It sort of really makes it a proper competition, and it then is anyone's to win.
Yeah, and Ricky, what do you think?
Well, everyone loves the playoff, don't they? Gets everything, makes it all exciting when it could be quite a very dull affair. So, I mean, as Henry said, Samoa are expected to qualify, but you never know. You can always be surprised, can't you?
I was going to say, do not give any hope to Namibia, no? The team that have turned up to how many World Cups in a row?
I don't know. On the fence.
On the fans. Henry, what do you think?
I mean, I as I said, it's Samoa's to lose, but I think Namibia could really spoil the party. They have produced some fantastic players over the years, and maybe they will spring that surprise. All it takes is one win to beat Samoa, and the other 2 matches should be in their favour. You never quite know, but it should be theirs. And yeah, why can't they do it? Like, yeah, they lost to Zimbabwe. They should have really taken that Africa spot, but yeah, I think that will be a proper contest. That'll be definitely a game to watch.
Well, look, we'll finish off with a little prediction from each of us regarding, shall we do the big 6 games in terms of the home nations and then Italy and France's games? So I'll ask us each to begin. So first game that comes up is Ireland v Japan. Henry, how do you think that one will go?
I mean, it's got to be Ireland, doesn't it? If it's not Ireland, then something's really gone wrong, and is Andy Farrell's job on the line?
Fair enough. Ricky?
Yeah, I can't really say much different from Henry there. Is jet lag really going to play a factor? I don't think so.
That's fair enough. So I'm guessing Ireland all for all of us?
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Grand. Scotland v New Zealand. Ricky, what do you think?
Oof. The optimist in me wants Scotland to win that, and I don't know why.
Fair enough.
As he says, jet lag could play a factor, but I think we're putting too much on jet. I'm going to put it all on jet lag there and say Scotland might win this one.
So Scotland don't have any quality. They're just hoping that science works its part. Okay, great. Henry, what do you think?
I absolutely can't see New Zealand losing it. Scotland never beaten New Zealand. Like Like the New Zealand team that beat Ireland, they're not losing to Scotland.
I'd be in agreement with you. I just think history of Scotland never beating them. Look, I actually reckon it'll be very close, and I think Scotland will get there, and I think New Zealand will just somehow scrape a win. I do think jet lag might play a wee bit of a part, but I think after the first 20 minutes, they'll just be able to separate enough so that Scotland can't get there. England v Fiji. Henry, what do you think?
I think it could be quite high scoring, but I'm not saying anything past an England win. I think maybe it will be a one score game, but I think England have it in the bag, or maybe not in the bag, but England have enough to win it.
Fair enough, Ricky.
Yeah, going for an England win. To be honest, not much else.
Simple as.
I think that just we're going to progress from last week, and you're going to see the team gel a bit more. So, yeah, as Henry said, maybe a one-score game.
No, I reckon Fiji, just because I'm an optimist and I don't like England that much. I'll be honest.
At least it's honesty.
Next is Italy v Australia. What do you think, Ricky?
I don't know. I want to see Italy maybe nick that, but I feel like the Wallabies will be licking their wounds after last week, and they're going to come out with a bigger performance.
And Henry?
Yeah, I'd love to see Italy win it. Again, I've sort of got quite a soft spot for them, as I do with the USA. But they've got Tom Hooper back, they've got Lennox out back. Like they will have to bounce back.
See, personally, I think this is a perfect run out for Italy. I don't know whether Australia might have their eye on the next fixture as well. So I think Italy might put a lot into this. So my thing is Italy, but look, they might be rusty themselves. I don't know, but I reckon it'll be very close. But I'm hoping Italy will win. The big one, France v South Africa. Henry, what do you think?
It's really tough. I mean, each time I go to say one, I sort of think actually the other could do it. I think I'm going to say France are going to do it, but it will be a one-score game, and it will be a spectacle, and there will be something controversial that happens.
Controversial in France? No. Ricky, go ahead.
I think we saw a few weaknesses in the Springboks over the Rugby Championship, and I think France will exploit that. Okay. So I'm going to edge with France.
I would be willing to agree with you, Ricky. I think, as you say, there were a few things in the Australia loss that were concerning for South Africa. But I haven't heard Henry, like, it's going to be an absolute belter of a tie. And if I'm free that night, which I hope I am, I'll just be sitting down and watching it. Nice wee beer in hand and enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? And finally, because you have to sign off with obviously the biggest nation in rugby, Wales. How do you think they'll do against Argentina? Ricky, you can start. You're I would say you're probably more of a Wales fan than me. So what do you think?
Yeah, my dad wouldn't be happy with that. I don't know. We're seeing a new Wales era, aren't we? But I'm just going to side with Argentina because it just feels logical. The rationale.
Sport's not logical, lad. You have to enjoy it.
Yeah. No.
And Henry, what do you think?
I mean, as an Englishman, I can't ever back Wales. I think they would sort of, this would be a really telling game on sort of where they are and sort of what they're going to become. I think a strong performance would be sort of being able to see what they are becoming. I don't think that they're going to be in a position to beat Argentina yet, but it could be actually quite a good performance from them.
I would say give them more time. It's obviously his first game, and he might only have had them in camp for a week, and it's going to be a new style, new approach. I do think Argentina under Campome look really threatening at times. I think there's a lack of consistency there, but that's always been Argentina's problem. They can put out a great performance. I think the issue is whether Argentina will be firing on all cylinders, whether they'll have all the squad there, and whether they actually take Wales seriously. That's my opinion, because Wales have obviously, what is it, 1 win in 19, something like that. So it'll be interesting. But look, Henry, Ricky, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you and getting your opinions on the upcoming weekend of rugby and on the previous weekend of rugby. I'd like to thank you for your time and listening to the podcast itself, the Jackals and Tackles Rugby Podcast. And look, I hope to hear from you soon and wish you all the best. Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Been a pleasure.
Yeah. Speak to you soon.